All right, we got some breaking news. I don't have a whole lot of time, so here's what time it is. Guys, things are getting down to the wire. Volodymyr Zelensky, according to the Russians, was evacuated to Germany. Get a load of this. They claim to have successfully targeted an underground bunker complex housing NATO officials, okay? In addition to that, they claim to have successfully neutralized a Patriot missile defense system or part thereof that was just redeployed from Poland into Ukraine, as well as some fighter craft. Now, we're going to talk about the implications of Zelensky being evacuated, if only temporarily, to Germany in light of what's happening in the Senate right now, where they're deciding to postpone the recess, the holiday recess, so they can push through this $60 billion Ukraine aid deal. Big things are coming because Finland just signed a pact, a military pact with NATO, which may well see NATO bring its forces into Finland, not only conventional ones, but possibly tactical nuclear weapons. If you want to rub Russia the wrong way, put tactical nuclear weapons just across the street from St. Petersburg. The Russians are about to mobilize militarily along the border with Finland in response to this. Finland has shut the borders to Russia once again. We also have to talk about this massive disruption in the power supply to New York City. A substation exploded, causing the entirety of New York City to experience a very temporary power disruption. This is massive. Was this an act of terrorism, or was this just the result of crumbling critical infrastructure? We're going to talk about it in just a moment. We also have to talk about commercial shipping being brought to a grinding halt by the Houthis. The Dwight Eisenhower aircraft carrier strike group is now exiting the Persian Gulf suddenly. What a surprise that they're now heading to the Arabian Sea. Are they going to try to be standing off against the Houthis, who are blocking that strait at Yemen? Because the biggest commercial freight company is no longer transiting that region, meaning that prices on commodities are likely going to go up. Commodities that traverse that area. Of course, this is going to drastically impact Israel's resupply, because they get a lot of their stuff through the Red Sea. So this is massive. This is major. We're about to see a massive escalation in the Middle Eastern conflict. We also need to talk about the exposition of Mark Zuckerberg's doomsday plans by Wired magazine. We've been talking about this for a long time, so this came as literally no surprise to me, because I got friends who know things, okay? And I can tell you that, yes, Mark Zuckerberg most definitely has a nuclear bunker plan. Unfortunately, he's lost the element of surprise. Now, a lot of people are throwing shade on Zuck, saying, why are you, a tech billionaire, only preparing for yourself on your 1,400-acre retreat in Hawaii? I don't think that's the most strategic places to relocate, but maybe he knows something I don't. Why are you only preparing for yourself when the guy with the Messiah complex, Elon Musk, who we pedestalize because we think he's the new Tony Stark and he's doing everything for humanity, he doesn't even own a home. He sleeps on a couch. He's building bases on Mars just in case humanity goes extinct. I assure you that the reason why Elon Musk doesn't, at least publicly, have a bunker, I'm sure he does have one, personal one somewhere, but the reason why he doesn't need to is because he's on the VIP list. This guy rubs shoulders with the highest of military defense contractors. He is part and parcel of the continuity of government plans. You can bet that he is going to get the proverbial heads up when the shit hits the fan, and he's going to be whisked away to Mount Weather, Raven Rock, Cheyenne Mountain, or whatever other of the dozens of undisclosed, classified, deep underground military base complexes that exist out there, okay? He doesn't have to worry about it because he's so intimately interwoven into the military-industrial complex at this point. He's part of the VIP team. So that's why. So don't throw shade on Zuck. Zuck knows what he's doing. Maybe Zuck's not quite in the club, although I suspect that he might be, but who knows nowadays. Anyways, we got to also talk about some explosions at an Iranian oil refinery in recent days. Now, where should we begin here today? Why am I wearing a t-shirt in the middle of December? Why is it 5 degrees Celsius outside in a place where it should be probably minus 25 right now with 2 feet of snow on the ground? There is no snow. It feels like a spring day, and I'm told that it's just El Nino. Not to worry about it, that this too shall pass. I can assure you I've never in my life living in this place, and I'm not going to date myself, but I'm older than you think, seen it this warm this late in the year. Okay, and the scary part is, I mean, it's good for us here, but it's scary when you think of the grand ecology. The scary thing is that the projections is that this is going to continue into January, which is absolutely insane. My friends, we are living in dangerous, dangerous times. And if you wanted the icing on the cake, go and watch the interview that I did with Nate Hagens yesterday, where he talks about peak oil 2.0. And if you think, that this guy, you're going to stump him with whatever it is you're thinking about, I guarantee you ain't. This guy is as sharp as they come. He's got an explanation for everything. I challenge him on some things in the second video, just like you do, with the Agenda 2030 and the whole 9 yards. We challenge him on that, and he's got some responses there as well. I'll leave you to be the judge. Round 2 is coming up. But let's talk about today's news. Now, Zelensky evacuated to Germany. I mean, think about what that means. If you're a Ukrainian person and you catch wind of this story that is being released by the Russians that says Zelensky evacuated to Germany, how are you going to feel about standing your ground on the front lines? Okay, when you're given the order to stand in place and to continue to fight when the captain has fled? Do you think people are going to be, I think morale is going to be slightly affected by this? I think so. However, there's good news for Zelensky, because it appears as though the Senate is about to approve a $60 billion aid bill. Apparently, Biden is willing to make some concessions, and there's progress being made. So I wouldn't be surprised that they shove this through over the holidays, possibly, okay? And then he also got some good news from Schultz, who very likely is going to be committing Taurus cruise missiles with a 500-kilometer range, okay? This is Germany's top of the hop, cream of the crop missile. Now, they only have a few hundred of these, so they say. So, and we're talking about $8 billion just from Germany alone, euros. So, Ukraine's going to have a windfall year for support, I do believe. All this talk about how Ukraine's finished, not by a long shot, man. This war is going to go on for a long, long time. And it's going to continue as long as NATO needs time to prepare to go to war directly with Russia. Anyways, Russia's effective missile strike on Kiev's military infrastructure forced Volodymyr Zelensky to escape to Wiesbaden. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. Wiesbaden in Germany. The armed forces of Ukraine admitted to Russia's Kinzhal missile attacks on targets in Kiev. In the afternoon of December 14th, the Russian aerospace forces launched Kinzhal missiles on targets in Kiev and on the airfield at, wait for it, Starokonstantinov. Did I get it right, my Ukrainian and Russian viewers? Starokonstantinov. I can't believe I just did that. Wow. 3 Kinzhal air-launched missiles from 3 MiG-31s were able to successfully hit their targets, and they were launched from the Tula region in Russia. So these were launched from inside Russia, as are most Kinzhals, I believe, that are on the MiG-31s, because they have quite the range. Ukraine's Armed Forces Speaker Yuri Ignat unexpectedly refused to announce the damage that was caused in the attacks. So Patriot missile systems, just so you know, they're rare, they're expensive, and they're pretty much the best we got, unless you believe the whole Israel IDF Arrow intercontinental ballistic missile intercept thing, which they claim to have done, and now Raytheon's putting out some other stuff that claims to be able to successfully target ICBMs as well. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. Anyways, they claim that they can hit missiles flying at speeds of 9,000 kilometers, but the Kinzhal can actually go 14,000, and of course it's maneuverable as well. Now, Russians claim that the Kinzhal strike was conducted to obliterate a battery of Patriot defense systems near the city of Zhytomyr. The systems arrived in Ukraine from Germany, and the air defense system was integrated with Aegis radar complex and long-range radar detection control aircraft in Poland and Romania. You still don't think that NATO is party to this conflict? Think again. in Stera-Konstantinov, and you guys have to see how long this word is, man. It's like 15 letters long. Stera-Konstantinov. I can't believe I said that. The Kinzhal missile struck a bunker with NATO officers from the Czech Republic and Poland. The other one hit an Su-24M aircraft, as well as a MiG-29 and Su-27. This is a massive strike. If this is true, and the Russians are very reserved when they make claims of battlefield successes, so I'm suspecting that where there's smoke, there most definitely is fire. So I don't think this bodes well for morale to know that Zelensky is going to bail when the chips eventually are down, if they ever are down. Remember, guys, I've been saying I've never underestimated the Ukrainians, except at the beginning when I had some people in intelligence, maybe they were co-opted as far as I know, or trying to co-opt me, or just feeding me disinformation, but they were telling me, yeah, Ukraine's going to fold right away. And I think that's what a lot of people originally thought within the U.S. intelligence community. But I've always said, while Ritter and friends and McGregor have said that it's finished, it's over, they've been saying the same old tune for 18 months, it's far from over. Okay, NATO needs to prepare to go to war with the Russians, and they need to keep sending their sacrificial lambs into the slaughterhouse. Now, New Yorkers were trapped in elevators during a baffling power outage. Okay, now this all comes in light of all the stuff about cyber attacks in the past week. And yours truly, if you didn't watch the video I did on cybersecurity in, I believe it was a little over 2 years ago, look at the date in that video. We create this fictional scenario that happens in the future, but the date in the video is December 13th, 2023, the exact day of the massive cyber attack that took place in Ukraine. Anyways, I ain't Nostradamus. You don't have to be with these things. Anything bad that can happen most definitely will happen. And it's great to see that preparedness is in vogue. That all the people that would have laughed me out of the room years, if even months ago, are now either secretly or publicly becoming preppers. And Zuckerberg is one of them. Now, one video on social media showed smoke coming from the Con Edison substation in Vinegar Hill in Brooklyn, where police said they received a 9/11 call for an explosion. Was this domestic terrorism? Was this one of the sleeper cells that we've heard about? Now, the scary part of this is that it just shows how interconnected the power grid actually is, and how disruption in one part of it can affect the entirety of the grid. And it's so crazy because that movie, Leave the World Behind, just came out last week, and there was, the power grid disruption, and all of a sudden this happens a week later. Now, was this done by some pranksters? Was this done by some sleeper cells, or was this just a result of crumbling infrastructure? I guess we'll probably never know. We might. Maybe they'll do an investigation and figure something out. Was this a cyber attack? Okay, it could have been. This disruption led to a city-wide power outage. It was only temporary. I think the lights just flickered for a second. Maybe as power needed to reroute around this damaged substation. I don't know how it works. If you know somebody, or if you personally are a engineer in the field of like an electrician, a high-level electrician who might have access to like urban planning and stuff like that, and you know a lot about it, please contact me at media@canadianpreparedness.com, because I want to interview you. I want to learn more about the vulnerabilities of the power grid to better educate my viewers with respect to exactly how susceptible we are to these kind of attacks, and hopefully motivate more people to prepare for an inevitable grid down situation. Okay, a fault on a high tension transmission line occurred at Con Edison substation, Brooklyn, at approximately 11:55 p.m. last night, the energy company said in a statement. A user on X said, so are we just going to pretend that there wasn't a 2-second power blackout across the entire city? Yeah, that's pretty crazy, isn't it? Not the first time that New York has seen a power outage. I think there was a big one that happened. There was a couple, actually, that have happened throughout history. One big one, I think, was in 2000, and another one in the 70s. Could you imagine a multi-day blackout in New York City in the current climate. Could you imagine the chaos and pandemonium that would ensue? The only thing that would, and the problem is, if the internet stays up and people are able to coordinate their efforts, could you imagine the looting and the chaos? Holy shit. And the arson? Every psychopath is going to come out of the woodwork. People don't think about arson. You remember that movie, the Stephen King rendition of, it was based on the Stephen King book. It was called The Stand. And they have that one guy who's a pyromaniac in the film where, you know, virus wipes out most of humanity, and it's just kind of allegory for good and evil. But in the movie, there's a guy who's a pyromaniac, and he just gets his rocks off lighting fires. You're going to have people like that. And in high-rise buildings, that's going to be a problem. Speaking of explosions, fire causes 2 explosions at a refinery in eastern Iran. Now, where combustibles are involved, you would expect that there's going to be explosions sometimes, and accidents do happen. This was one that went under the radar. I missed this one. This was actually a few days ago. This was on December 10th. A fire at a small refinery in eastern Iran's Burjan Special Economic Zone caused 2 explosions on Sunday and remains out of control. No casualties reported, but the damage is yet to be assessed. A loss of 1.5 million liters of fuel, which is nothing when you're in Iran and you have some of the world's largest fuel supplies at your disposal. Nonetheless, was this an act of sabotage? Okay? Something to consider, guys. Things are about to hit the fan in the Middle East because Hezbollah and Israel, this is something I forgot to mention in the headlines, basically the talks have fallen apart. Hezbollah has rejected a deal, and why would they ever accept a deal that asks them to retreat 5 to 7 kilometers within their own borders? Well, Israel doesn't have to follow in suit is stupid. Of course they're not going to accept that. So now Israel is saber-rattling with Hezbollah, saying that we're going to go to war with you. But Israel can only do this. And some of the people I know who are very knowledgeable in this space say that the only way that Israel is able to fight a war with Hezbollah is if the United States joins the fray, which may well be about to happen. We've seen the look on Sullivan's face when he got the handshake from Netanyahu. You can see that smug facial expression on Netanyahu when he shook the hand of Jake Sullivan. That tells me that Netanyahu knows that the tail is wagging the dog, at least in that respect, meaning that it's very likely that we're going to see the United States brought into a war very, very quickly into the Middle East. It's only a matter of time. As I indicated, the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has decided to keep senators in town next week to continue negotiations. They would only do this if they knew that this thing had promise. Okay, we're talking about $111 billion to be dispersed across Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Okay, big money. And apparently negotiations are progressing. There are signs that President Biden is willing to give them what they want to secure the over $60 billion in aid to fund the proxy war in Ukraine, concessions on the border, that is. Now let's quickly talk about Zuckerberg's bunker. Again, do not pedestalize Elon Musk and just think that this guy has the best. Never ever do that, because I swear that there never has been a bigger dystopian Trojan horse than X, Starlink, Tesla, the Boring Company, SpaceX, the list goes on, and now the Optimus robot thing and the Neuralink thing. Biggest Trojan horse in history. Period. I like Elon Musk. I think he's a cool guy. I also think he's knowingly, probably, because you can't be that smart and not know, being co-opted by the U.S. military-industrial complex. Mark Zuckerberg is reportedly building a sprawling $100 million Hawaii compound. We knew about this for a long time. In fact, we did a short about Mark Zuckerberg and his prepping escapades, okay? But now this is mainstream. Once again, we're vindicated. Keep getting vindicated on this channel. It doesn't matter how many times we get vindicated. There's always going to be those normalcy Normans out there who, right up until the bitter end, they're going to remember this face right here. You're going to remember this face right here when the shizzy hits the fizzy. That's what All American Prepper says. Anyways, complete with an underground bunker, its own food and energy sources, you think? The compound on Kauai Island. You know, even Guy McPherson, now that I think about it, when we had him on the channel over 5 years ago, was talking about Mark Zuckerberg's refuge in Kauai. Anyways, it's going to consist of over a dozen buildings, excuse me, with 2 central mansions that will be connected by a tunnel that leads to a 5,000 square foot underground shelter with an escape hatch, with an accessible ladder, Wired reported. I had a phone call coming in there. 5,000 square foot underground shelter. That is massive. Maybe not that big for a billionaire, but that's still pretty huge. The subterranean bunker will hold a living space and mechanical room and feature an apparent blast-resistant concrete and steel door. Well, you'd think so. It's underground, right? Cameras are already everywhere, of course. According to Wired sources, construction plans, the builders hope to make it completely self-sufficient. A water tank, 55 feet in diameter, and that's huge. And 18 feet tall? What? 55 feet in diameter. This guy's bringing his entire extended family. That's a lot of water, man. 55 feet in diameter and 18 feet high. That's freaking massive. I'm looking at it like 20-foot building right now, trying to visualize this. Holy shit. This guy's preparing for the end of days. Faux show. 1,400 acres to grow food on. In Hawaii, that don't come cheap. Now, I hope he's got good security, because his cover is blown. And Hawaii is one of those islands where it's kind of hard to get off of unless you got a really big plane. So, yeah. While Elon Musk works to build us a multi-planetary future, one starry-eyed user says, Zuckerberg builds an underground bunker for himself to hide beneath the earth. Let that sink in. Wah, wah, wah. People don't think critically nowadays. Just another NPC. Misc to pause all container traffic through the Red Sea. Mark my words, that Dwight Eisenhower aircraft carrier strike group that was tailed and communicated with the Iranians while it traversed the Strait of Hormuz recently. The Iranians allegedly told the U.S. to ground all its helicopters while it passed through, and the U.S. complied with the order, making some people think the U.S. is pretty weak in comparison. So anyways, what's happening, I think, is that they're sending this strike carrier group into that region in order to police it and start to take it to the Houthis. I think that's what's about to happen. Finland is going to close all checkpoints along the border. And just understand that what this means now, this is a big problem for Israel, because that means that they're not going to be able to get all of the stuff that they normally would get through there from the Suez Canal or from the port of Eilat, which has already been closed for the most part. I think 85% of shipping has been suspended there due to these Houthi attacks, okay? Looks like I'm running out of power, so we got to cut this short. Finland is going to be mobilizing. They're getting NATO military equipment. The agreement may involve basing NATO combat systems, troops, and infrastructure in naval bases, as well as training grounds and barracks in Finland. Sweden is doing the same. The deployment of American hypersonic and medium-range missiles in Finland, and the potential for Russia to respond by increasing its military presence in the northeastern regions and developing new tactical nuclear weapons. Guys, I'm running out of time. I gotta go. Enjoy the weekend. Thanks for watching.